HighBridge, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Wig, the Bitch, and the Meltdown by J. Manuel. Read by Daniel Henning. The world of reality TV is not real, and yet reality television has morphed into reality. I've worked in this world of smoke and mirrors, and when the smoke dissipates, the mirror reflects the truth. J. Manuel. 1. Amusin' Peril. Lincoln Center, New York City, 8:36 p.m. Metal catering racks crashed into each other as the ebony-skinned model, hair set in pin curls, face in full glam, fell out the doorway and into the deserted back alley outside the illustrious Fashion Week venue. 2 plates and 3 champagne glasses teetered dangerously on the edge, but stopped short of toppling to the frozen pavement. Squeezing her eyes, she raised her face to the heavens and blinked back the tears that threatened to ruin the makeup her personal glam guru had spent over an hour perfecting. Out front, entertainment news vans crowded the massive tents that housed the glitz and bling of the latest trends, designers, and, of course, supermodels. She looked left, then right. Coast clear, she shuddered away the horror of a few moments ago. "Asshole," she snuffled. A diminutive assistant, multitasking on 2 iPhones, burst through the same door. She looked left, then right. "Keisha?" she called, squinting into the murky night. "Where the hell's my driver?" "Oh my God, you scared me," the girl blurted, having no idea how scared she really should be. "I texted him twice. Shit, how do I not have service out here?" The 5'11" model, towering like a cat over a little bird, grabbed one of her iPhones, smashing it to the ground. "Just get me my damn car!" "Yes, Keisha, right away, Keisha!" The assistant ran back into the tent. Noticing 2 heroin-chic models, winter coats drawn tight over their white bathrobes, walking in her direction, the supermodel ducked behind the catering racks. She watched as they expertly navigated their way up the icy ramp, holding on to each other's arms for balance, their slippery pedicure flip-flops making them look more like waddling ducks than mighty catwalkers of the runway. Plumes of white smoke billowed from their vapes. "It was bound to happen," the blonde girl quipped. "At the Veronica's Privates fitting, she had to wear a size 8, and that barely fit." The brunette shivered. "Donatello won't even look at anyone over a size 0. Keisha dropped to her knees behind the carts of empty champagne glasses. The fashion industry that insisted it no longer encouraged models to starve themselves was all lip service. The duck-walking cats simultaneously nodded their heads like dashboard bobblehead dolls. "I hear she's not booked for any shows in Europe either. She's getting too old anyway." Blondie took another drag on her vape and choked. "I don't care how big a bitch she is. Michael Kors going on like that tonight was way rough." "Did he fire her or did she fire him?" The metal stage door flew open again, and this time a strikingly handsome, racially ambiguous man in black leather skinny jeans burst into the alley, holding on to his headset. The caterers' racks could stand no more. The teetering glasses that had been barely clinging to their perch toppled to the ground, shattering over the crouching model's hidden head. "Shit!" the show coordinator for Michael Kors screeched, grabbing 2 of the racks to steady them. "What are you guys doing out here?" He saw the anorexic models hurrying toward the tent door. "We're starting the show in 5 minutes. I need you inside and in your first looks," he yelled at the smokers. "Have either of you seen Keisha?" "Didn't you get the memo, Pablo?" the sickly Nordic type sniped. "Michael told Keisha she was getting too big for his britches. We figured that was good for another smoke," she sassed. Pablo sneered at the girls. "Clearly, it's you who didn't get my memo. Beyonce and J-Lo started the booty revolution. It's all about loving your curves now, girl." He looked the rail skinny models up and down. Michael just needed to be reminded. Keisha's in, and we're on in 5. He looked left, then right. As soon as I fucking find her, he mumbled under his breath. If Pablo were a firefighter, he'd be the one holding the hose. His job was to put out fires, quickly, efficiently, permanently. The girls waddled toward the door in their petty flip-flops. Better hurry. Ashley Graham is probably replacing you for a major campaign as we speak. The starving models gasped in horror, now skating toward the door. Ashley will never get the real money gigs, Blondie whispered to her cohort. Don't count on that, Pablo, who'd overheard the snide comment, retorted. Michael Kors needs a big headline this season, and I just reminded him big is beautiful. Keisha's opening and closing the show tonight, booty curves and all. Shit, she'll get an extra 50 grand for that stunt, Blondie said, stepping through the threshold. Honey, she gets 20 grand per turn. She'll get 250 tonight. Pablo slammed the door shut on the girls' stunned faces. Hell, that's more than I make in a year, he heard one of the models say. Their muffled voices faded away. Pablo enjoyed putting the little ingrates in their place, but right now he had a seriously urgent matter to attend to. Does anyone have a 20 on Keisha Kash? He yelled into his mic. I need a 20 on Keisha Kash, now. Like a black Venus rising, the Amazonian supermodel uncurled to her full majestic height from behind the catering racks. A few shards of glass twinkled in her pin curls like glitter. Pablo's mouth gaped open as he looked up at the black goddess herself. Oh my God, Miss Kash, I'm so sorry you heard that. If I offended you in any way, I mean, you're not fat or anything. Those skinny girls are just, shit. I mean, you're stunning. You're real. Most women would kill to be you. I know. Keisha's gold-tinted lips curled into the smile that made her millions. Pablo, come in, Pablo. His headset blared. She's left already. I heard her assistant calling an Uber. I've got her. You've got her? He nodded as though the stage manager could see him, then repeated, Yeah, I got her. And you are? Keisha asked, looking him up and down, pursing her lips as she judged his merit and his looks. Aside from being an inarticulate dumbass? Aside from that. The show coordinator, Pablo Michaels. She reached over and tapped the end of Pablo's nose. And you convinced Kors to let me open and close the show? Pablo nodded slowly. You're my new BFF, Mr. Pablo. She blinked her false eyelashes at him. Twice. Pablo's heart thumped in his chest. He'd loved Keisha Kash since she'd made the cover of Vogue at the age of 16, single-handedly redefining beauty as a young woman. Very few black models had that honor at the time, and now, he hoped, she might get to do it again in her 30s, representing the full-figured woman. Keisha's smile faded into a churlish grin that was a little creepy, like one of those toy clowns in a horror film. Do you know what I can do for you? She fixed him with a gimlet gaze and stared into his eyes with such intensity that Pablo wondered if she was trying to hypnotize him. An Uber is 2 minutes away. The errant assistant rushed through the door, waving her now only iPhone. Keisha's eyes shot daggers at the girl. An Uber? I have my own driver paid for by Kors. How useless can you be? The girl stammered her way through trying to explain her reasoning to her irate boss. I'm sorry, I'm fired. Keisha grabbed her cell phone, dropped it on the ground, and smashed it with her heel. That was my phone. It still is. Keisha turned away as her now former assistant dropped to her knees and tried to pick up the pieces of her shattered device. Pablo stooped down to help the stunned assistant when the saccharine voice floated toward him. You coming, Mr. Pablo? Keisha purred. Pablo Michaels. I like that. It's a name people are going to remember if I have anything to say about it. Keisha walked over to the backstage door. Your show begins in 2 minutes, and I still need to get to wardrobe. Leaving the assistant to solve her own phone problems, Pablo found himself walking behind the sinewy sway of the supermodel, like her personal consort. He was having a pinch-himself moment, but it was too soon interrupted by the stage manager's panicky squeal into his earpiece. "Maird, anyone got a 20 on Pablo or Keisha?" Pablo pressed his mic. "She's flying in. Cue the music." 5 minutes later, Keisha Kash was figurating her curvaceous way down the runway in 7-inch spiky heels and a bandage dress. Cameras flashed, 70s disco thumped. She vogued, posed. The crowd erupted. New York Fashion Week's fall-winter shows always land in February, amid the dreary skies and frozen slush of Manhattan's icy sidewalks. Still, its bright lights big city drew A-list celebs, fashionistas, and fans to the prominent biannual gathering of everybody who's anybody. Backstage was a typhoon of naked or half-naked models racing back and forth in between the runway and wardrobe, stopping by for first, second, and third looks, touch-ups from makeup and hair artists. Pablo couldn't believe that 20 minutes earlier this top designer had been having a hissy fit, followed by an even bigger temper tantrum from his supermodel, who was now garnering a standing ovation. He peered through a crack in the curtains and sighed. There were Ariana Grande and J.Lo tragically sitting in the front row alongside bloggers of the moment and teenage social media stars. It used to be that Fashion Week was the place to be discovered. Now, the overhyped runway presentations were reduced to spotlighting viral influencers. For the most part, fashion editors were forced to sit, or worse, stand in back, while the popular yet uninformed posse, who now inhabited the coveted front line, spoke in sound bites and hashtags. Pablo looked over at Anna Wintour, who seemed unbothered by her surroundings as she remained the only recognizable editor with a front-row seat. Coors came up and patted his shoulder. "I'm glad we didn't get Kendall Jenner. I'm obsessed with Keisha now." Pablo's heart stuck in his throat. "Thank you," he whispered. As Keisha strutted off the catwalk for the last time, she winked at Coors and said, "He's mine." And he was in that instant, signed, sealed, delivered, hers. 2. The Honeymoon. The Coors show wrapped with stars falling from the ceiling, as even bigger stars, literally and figuratively, like Keisha Kash, strutted down the catwalk, hand in hand with the famous designer. Backstage, champagne flowed like kisses, and everyone congratulated each other and themselves for being fabulous, as well as putting on a fabulous show. No one seemed to recall that it was Pablo who'd rescued the show from the brink of disaster and made it fabulous. Keisha and Coors got the accolades, but Pablo didn't expect more. With others, he graciously toasted the designer and the model, promising himself to sleep in the next morning, now that the revelry was over. Finally, he could recover from the hectic month of prep work that was needed to pull off the show. He was beyond exhausted. "Let's bounce," Keisha whispered in Pablo's ear. "I can't stand rap parties." Pablo looked regrettably around the room. He'd been looking forward to getting to know Coors more intimately and to networking the after-show soiree at Tao downtown. He really should be putting himself out there and working on securing jobs that would move him toward his own dreams, not just others, but Keisha's invitation was too tempting to ignore. "Me neither," he said, following her into the night. Stripped of all her dramatic makeup, baseball cap perched, Pablo couldn't believe his luck to be the one selected from the crowd to escort Lady Fabulous out the door to where her oversized, blacked-out Escalade was waiting. He wondered briefly who'd ordered the car, as this was clearly not an Uber. When the SUV door was opened by a drop-dead gorgeous hunk of a chauffeur, Pablo stopped caring, though. "Where to, Miss Kash?" It seemed the driver could find her just fine without her assistant. Home, James, she giggled, stretching out like a feline across the back seat of her souped-up ride. She patted the empty space beside her. Sit. She knocked off her shoes and plopped her feet into his lap. My feet are killing me. Pablo had seen models' feet bleed after walking in shoes that cramped their toes and cut into their flesh. Calluses were standard fare in the industry, but Keisha's feet were pristine and perfect, just like the rest of her. He began massaging her arches and toes. How does Chinese sound? Great. Shit, my assistant has the number to my favorite place. No big deal, I'll check Grubhub. What's it called? I don't know. Where do you live? 565 Broome, the big glass towers. With deft efficiency, Pablo typed the word Chinese into his food delivery app and began to read out the list of names of restaurants in the area. Jade Garden? The Big Wong? Lo Hung Kok? OMG, they're next to each other. It's somebody's name. Joe's Shanghai? That's it. Crab dumplings. Get 7 orders. 7? I'm starving. Oh, and order the delivery under the name Crystal Light. My doormen know what to do. After adding the new delivery address to his profile, Pablo processed the order with his Apple Pay. All done. An hour later, they'd devoured 3 platters of dumplings and were staring down the last one when Keisha shook her chopsticks at Pablo and said, I think we were meant to meet. I was just thinking the same thing. It's like serendipity. And don't think I don't know what you did for me tonight. She stared down the plate. So, what's your story? How did you end up my knight in shining armor? Well, you know, Midwest boys love to rescue damsels in distress. Midwest to Manhattan? Come on, tell Mama. He smiled shyly. Was Keisha Kash really interested in lowly Pablo Michaels? Well, I studied photography and marketing at Parsons, and my senior project was to produce the entire concept for the fashion class's runway spectacle. Keisha twizzled her chopsticks. Short version. He was boring her. Anyway, Fern Malice herself was in the audience, he blurted. Wow. Fern Malice was none other than the woman who had created 7th on 6th Productions, or New York Fashion Week, as it was now known. Fast forward, Fern recruited me. I became her assistant, and then she recommended me to Michael Kors, and here we are. He popped a cold dumpling into his mouth. Ta-da! Keisha squealed with delight. I love rags to riches stories. This calls for ice cream and more champagne. She pointed to the double-door Sub-Zero refrigerator. Pablo got up and opened the unit's doors. Her fridge was bigger than the bathroom in his apartment. Hell, it was bigger than his bedroom, and there was room enough to sleep in it. There was nothing but champagne and leftovers on one side and quarts of ice cream on the other. My KonMari consultant organized it by flavor. She was now behind him, peeking over his shoulders. Pablo couldn't believe Keisha had a certified tidying specialist organizing her frozen treats. It was a rainbow of flavors: coconut, blue moon, green tea, mint, limoncello, tangerine, raspberry, red bean, cookie dough, chocolate, caramel, latte, coffee. Pablo had never seen so much ice cream in one person's freezer. What's your poison? She giggled like a little girl pulling out a tub of Haagen-Dazs Dulce de Leche and headed back to the sofa. That looks good to me. He followed, champagne in hand. She sat the tub between them, stabbing it with 2 spoons, as he popped the champagne cork and poured. Scoring the top of the ice cream until she had a mound on her spoon, she began to lick it like an icicle pop. I've been feeling really low, ever since Veronica's privates made a big deal about bringing me in to model plus sizes, she confided. And then when Kors started in on me tonight, I just wanted to die. You have no idea how hard it is to be me. Pablo nodded empathetically. When you came along and told those skinny bitches off, she bit into her ice cream, You made me feel so much better about myself. How could you feel anything but? You're wonderful, and I'm actually very insecure. You're an icon. Keisha stared into the ice cream carton. Seriously, come on. Pablo flicked her spoon, trying to get a reaction. I'm not joking around. Why are you looking all sad? Keisha paused, sucking on her ice cream. I was bullied by my brother. No. Whenever I didn't have my weave in, he used to call me Gollum, like in Lord of the Rings. That's horrible. I know. But hashtag truth? Every time I step out of the shower, after my braids are taken out, I look in the mirror and see a bug-eyed mantis with a potbelly who's not accepted in real fashion circles anymore. Tears were slipping down her $1,000,000 face and into the carton, making it salted caramel ice cream. You gotta stop that old childhood shit. First, it's not true. At all. You're not some pasty creature hanging out in a cave. And you have almond eyes, not bug eyes. Your skin is flawless. Where's your brother now, huh? In a psych ward. Pablo bluffed the shock by making his I told you so face. Hashtag just saying. He crossed his fingers in the air. Keisha's eyes squinted at the gesture, and then she stabbed the ice cream, twice. It was one of those moments where one secret divulged deserves another. Pablo inhaled and prepared to spill his own beans. I'm adopted. My mama's in prison. They both burst into tears. I've always had to fend for myself, she whimpered. Her crying seemed somewhat manufactured. Rehearsed, perhaps? So I armored up. I never had my feelings truly heard before. I don't even think I like any of my family. I don't know much about my birth mother, only that she was a teenager and white. My biological father was young and black, a mistake in so many ways. My adoptive parents were the answer to any child's prayers, but I was also an answer to theirs. As devout Catholics, my mom told me she'd prayed to get pregnant until she was forced to have a hysterectomy at the age of 27. Then God told me he had a special soul for me in heaven, she'd say. I just had to be patient and wait for my blessing to come into the light, and then one day, here you were. Pablo had spent much of his childhood experiencing the empty feeling of depression, and it always set in when he talked about the past. Zoloft, however, had become his savior at 22, and it kept his unhealed trauma in check. OMG, that's beautiful. Keisha scooped more dulce de leche into her mouth. My fucked-up, cheating dad left my mom when my brother and I were little kids. I barely remember him. Then, when I was 13, my mama got locked up. We had no real family growing up. That's horrible. I have PTSD from it. I have PTSD just from hearing about it. How'd you manage, then? We lived with distant cousins. My real name is Kiki Grimes. Mine is David something. I don't even know. Pablo felt his eyes get hot again. There was a lot more to his adoption story, but something deep down told him it wasn't time to spill all the beans. Plus, he wasn't even ready to face it. The tears leaking from his eyes, however, betrayed his stoic expression. We're gonna need more ice cream. Keisha jumped up and ran to the freezer. Moving from size 0 to plus had its advantages. You want to watch a movie or something? Sure, he said, wiping his eyes and trying to act normal. Moments later, they'd settled on the couches in the living room, each holding their own quart of ice cream. Pablo dug into his rainbow swirl. An old black-and-white movie flickered across her supersized screen. Keisha had a curious look in her eye. You know, I don't think I've ever known somebody who was adopted. Isn't that so weird? Pablo didn't think it was that weird, but they'd been drinking champagne and eating a lot of sugar. I don't think I could handle the rejection. I mean, your own mother abandoned you. I wasn't left in a basket like Moses, Pablo said as he sat back, trying not to feel offended. Keisha was clearly abandoned, but he didn't dare bring that up. He chirped. Besides, she gave me great parents. My mom is supportive about me finding my birth mother if I want to, but I'm not interested. He dabbled with his ice cream. She was just a carrying case for 9 months, you know? I don't even want to know about my birth family. What would I do after I meet the woman who gave birth to me? Send Christmas cards and chat on the phone once a month? Keisha shook her head. That's all I get to do with my mom, and she birthed me. Pablo felt like one of the bulimic models on a binge. Keisha had probably been one once. Life is so hard, he murmured. I feel like all I do is fight people who are trying to take me down. Keisha finally shifted her gaze from the ice cream to look Pablo in the eye. Hey, you fought your way to the top and had to challenge the powers that be. That doesn't mean you're ugly or a bad person. It's hard for women. Hell, it's even harder for black women. Truth. She zeroed in on him. I need someone like you. Someone I can trust. Someone who gets me. Pablo mashed the ice cream beneath his spoon and nodded. He was loyal, empathetic, hard-working, and besotted. Could she be... I used to be full of dreams. I used to think the entertainment world was all about everyone getting along, helping each other, supporting each other. She stared into the second empty tub of dulce de leche. It was all soupy at the bottom, and she was stirring and sipping it from her spoon now. But it's so cutthroat and superficial. You've got to have someone you can trust to stay sane. You were meant to come into my life. I know it. Pablo didn't know what to say. They barely knew each other, yet Keisha was so earnest in her affections towards him. Strange. It made him feel a little uncomfortable. This friendship was clearly going to develop fast. Super fast. Did all supermodels operate in the fast lane? Pablo certainly didn't know. Nonetheless, she was the dream BFF he'd always wanted. That was the blessing. And no one is so rich as to throw away a friend. On the giant flat-screen TV that reigned supreme over the living room fireplace, Pablo recognized the black-and-white Turner Classic Film. A young Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney were hugging each other and running toward a barn. Babes in Arms, he whispered. Ever watch it? Keisha looked at the screen and turned up the sound. Let's put on a show, Judy was saying to Mickey. It's so much easier when you're a white girl, Keisha scoffed. Who can sing? Pablo added. They both burst out laughing. Mr. Pablo, you want to know a secret? Keisha's voice suddenly sounded like that of a 5-year-old girl's. Pablo tilted his head away from the screen to glance at her. Of course he wanted to know a secret. I used to watch the Oscars when I was a little girl, and I knew I would be there one day. Me too, he blurted. OMG! And the Emmys too, Pablo said. But you know what I've always secretly wanted? Pablo paused for a moment. He'd never told anyone his dream job, but he felt like he could tell Keisha anything. I want to have a talk show and really help people. You are such a good person, I can totally tell. Tears sprang back into Pablo's eyes. He'd never found a reason for so many tears as he had this night. He was so moved that she really did see him, and for the first time he felt like he was on the path his life was meant to follow. What about you? He asked. Do you have any dreams other than being who you are right now? Now? This is a nightmare, not a dream. I'm just this objet d'art that gets picked apart every chance they get. Nothing I ever do is good enough. Keisha's voice cracked. I've never heard anyone tell me I'm beautiful other than my mama. What are you talking about? I hear people say it at least 20 times a day. You're stunning. Believe that. No, Pablo. Keisha Kash, the celebrity, is beautiful. Not me. They see the hair, the makeup, and the clothes. They see the fantasy. That's all a lie. She wiped her face and stared at his chin. I wish the people would see me for a change. The real me. Maybe then I could love myself more. Who am I?
Sample complete. Ready to continue?